Welcome back. It is time to make some sauces, some mother effing sauces.
Hi, my name is Kathryn, and I'm the chef and owner of a French-inspired cafe in Greensboro, North Carolina called Chez G. We are well known for our weekend brunch and for our integrated hiring model. 50% of our team is disabled and 50% is non-disabled. This is my personal channel where I demystify French food by cooking with you in my own tiny apartment kitchen. Welcome.
As always, before we get started, let's pull our hair back. Put our aprons on. Trick: when you're washing your aprons, make a little knot, a little slip knot, so that the strings don't get tangled up in everything. I just washed mine today. Today we are breaking down the 5 French mother sauces. Why are they called mother sauces? My personal take is because all other sauces are birthed out of these 5 sauces, but we're gonna fact check me on that to see if that's really the reason that these sauces have the name mother. It's not in there. Usually this book has everything. All right, I thought Julia Child would have the answer for me. She has an amazing sauce section with all the mother sauces in it, but no description on mother sauces. My traditional books that I would use as resources failed me today. They did not give me the information I was looking for. Had to resort to Google. I was, however, correct. And it is called the mother sauces because all the other daughter sauces come from the 5 mother sauces. So check for Kathryn and my chef skills on that one. But out of those 5 sauces, 3 are very similar in structure. They're all roux-based sauces. Don't worry, we're gonna get there, with different liquids. So you have Bechemel, which is a milk-based sauce. You have velouté, which is a chicken stock-based sauce. And then you have espagnole, which is a beef-based stock. So you have a white sauce and a brown sauce. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure what category velouté falls into. Feels like it's in between the 2. Maybe that's the purpose. Hollandaise is our 4th mother sauce, which is an egg yolk and butter-based sauce. Very similar to mayonnaise, except for Hollandaise is hot. And then we have a tomato sauce. So those are the 5. Today, I'm going to be teaching you how to make 2 of the 5 mother sauces, because if you can make the bechamel and you can make the Hollandaise, you can figure out the others.
Ingredients assemble. These are all the ingredients you will need for both sauces. Most of these items you probably have on hand on a regular basis. Milk, lemon, butter, flour. The salt and the butter we will be using for both of our sauces today, which is why they're in the middle. But nothing fancy here, just good quality and fresh everyday ingredients, which is one of the things that I love the most about French cooking. It's time to separate our egg yolks. There are several different ways that you can do this. I personally like to transfer the egg back and forth in the shell until the whites are all removed. Pro tip: crack your egg on a flat surface instead of using the edge of a bowl to ensure a smoother crack and no shells in your egg mixture. Trust me on this. Every egg is different, and sometimes the whites hang on to the yolk more than others, so just be patient and don't worry if the yolk breaks in the process. We're going to stir them up anyway, so it's not a big deal, and I'm going to save my egg whites to add into my breakfast omelets or scrambles later in the week.
We're going to go the double boiler method, which means saucepan with about a 1/2 inch of water. Get the heat turned on. You're grabbing a stainless steel bowl that will fit over the top. This is not the best fit. It's gonna work, but I don't have a lot of pans and all here at my apartment. While our saucepan is coming up to temperature, we're gonna go ahead and get our lemon juice ready. All right, we're gonna do the juice of about 1.5 lemons. For this, you can either, if you have a lemon juicer, great. If you don't, like me, you can either kind of take the seeds out ahead of time with a knife and then just squeeze the juice out. And if any seeds fall out, just scoop them out later, which is what I'm gonna do. Or you can squeeze the lemon like this so that any seeds stay in it. I'm not gonna do that today because my hands are so dry from this winter. that will really, really hurt my poor cracked hands. It's me, the headless chef. I saw somebody else's content on Instagram though, and I was like, she does the same thing. She's also the headless chef. Okay, about a tablespoon of butter that we're gonna use cold, and then about 5 to 6 tablespoons, I'll put the exact recipe up here, that we're going to melt. The water is hot. I can actually turn that down just a little bit because it can be simmering. It doesn't need to be boiling. And then before I put my bowl on top, I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs, lemon juice in here. It's time to go ahead and mix together our egg yolks and our lemon juice. While you're doing this, you can also go ahead and melt your butter either in the microwave, which is what I did, or in another sauce pot over the stove, but you want that to be done by the time your eggs are done. We want to go ahead and incorporate our egg yolks and lemon juice before we add to the stove, but then we'll continue to whip once it's over the heat. This will help it to not overheat or cook the eggs too quickly, which will make your sauce lumpy and change the flavor. The double boiler also helps with that since it serves as an indirect heat source. The yolks will become lighter in color and frothy in this process. You're gonna mix, and some more. Your forearm muscles are gonna be ripped by the time you're done with this. Once the yolks are thickened and fluffy, go ahead and add your cold butter and stir until incorporated. This will thicken your sauce even more. Once it's thoroughly mixed, go ahead and remove that from the stove. Again, any extra time on the stove increases your risk of overdoing it, and we don't want to do that. And then at this point, we're ready to go ahead and start adding our melted butter. You want to drizzle slowly. If you go too quickly, that's where you might start to see it look like it's curdled, which just means that the fats are integrating well together and they're not becoming homogeneous, they're separating out. So by adding the fat, being our melted butter, slowly into the eggs and lemon juice, it's going to allow you to incorporate it to keep it smooth. All right, our end result is this beautiful, thick and glossy hollandaise. We just need to add salt. Again, don't be afraid of salt. It is your cooking friend. Now for the taste test. Needs a little bit more salt, but the lemon is great. There we go. So that's the hollandaise. Obviously great for eggs Benedict. Also great for veggies. Asparagus is something that goes really well with hollandaise because it's so rich and creamy. It can do well with other more bitter or sharp tasting vegetables like asparagus. But yeah, you basically, now that you know how to make hollandaise, you also could make mayonnaise, which is the cold version, but same kind of process where you have egg yolks, which can take almost an infinite amount of fat if you add it slowly. So for mayo, you typically don't use butter, you would use an oil. You can use olive oil, it tends to turn mayo green. I have done that before. So a vegetable or a vegetable olive oil blend works better, but same kind of process. Now, you may be asking, is there not an easier way to make this sauce? Yes there is, but then it wouldn't be French. You can, however, make it in the blender or in a food processor, which is much easier than beating by hand, and you don't typically have to go through the whole double boiler process if you're going to do that, or with an immersion blender, which is what you use at work. So you have the egg yolks, lemon juice, salt and pepper, blend those up until they're nice and frothy, and then slowly add the really hot butter, which then tempers your egg yolks, keeping that safe, and then it also makes a really nice thick and creamy hollandaise. All right, now to do a few dishes and reset. Take 2, bechamel. My prisms are starting to really come in. I'm starting to get my afternoon light pretty strong in the kitchen now, so my prisms are starting to do their thing, which means there's like all kinds of light and rainbows, which is so fun and so pretty. And also I'm trying not to just like stand directly in their path for the sake of this video. So if you see me shuffling around a little bit, that's why. Okay, we are ready and set up for sauce number 2, which is our bechamel sauce. This is a roux-based sauce, so knowing how to make this sauce is going to come in really handy for a lot of different sauces. It's also a sauce that I use pretty frequently in my own day-to-day. It's great if you ever want to make homemade mac and cheese, which is one of my favorite comfort foods. You're going to make a bechamel sauce and add cheese to it. It's really easy. So this one is something that you will probably use and won't be something that just feels like this elusive French concept that you would never make in your own home kitchen. We need 3 ingredients. We're going to have butter, flour, and milk, and then salt and pepper. So 5, I guess, if you count both of those things. Let's head to the stove. So the important thing to remember with a roux is that it's equal parts butter and flour. For the sake of this, we're going to do 2 tablespoons of each. I'm eyeballing a little bit here because I'm working off of a big block of butter, but my eyeballs are pretty accurate. So 2 tablespoons of butter. You want that to be cold. And then you're going to slowly melt that in your pot. Butter has a pretty low melting point and it burns easily. Other fats and oils have a much higher melting point, meaning that the temperature has to be higher in order for it to start melting and or burning. So butter, you want to just always have on a low to medium heat. Don't put it on high unless you actually are going for browned butter. Once that butter is all the way melted, we're going to go ahead and add our flour. So equal parts, 2 tablespoons of flour straight into the pot. And then you're going to stir that together. An important step in this process is not rushing the flour and the butter coming together. If you start adding the milk right away, you're going to end up with that raw flour flavor. So we want to actually let the butter and the flour cook together for, a minute or so, just to get that raw taste out and make sure that they're fully combined. I definitely overdid it. Look at that. Chefs make mistakes. I overdid it. We're going to start over. I was trying to move the camera around, and I am working on an electric stove, which is a lot harder to regulate heat. And all of a sudden I was like, it smells like toasted almonds in here. And there we go. So that's 2 done. Take 2. The thing about cooking, guys, people get afraid to do it because you might mess up and you might make mistakes. And that's true. And actually you're going to, because you're a person and food is science and people get science wrong sometimes. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's some butter, it's some flour. It makes me sad when I have to throw something out, but for the most part, the risk is pretty low and you're always going to learn something in the process. All right, we're not going to burn it this time. It's time to add the milk. This is going to end up being probably 1.5 cups milk for this much flour and butter. We're going to eyeball it till it gets to the thickness that we want. But our butter and our flour are acting as our thickening agent. We're going to start to slowly add milk. You can see how it already took all that milk and thickened. We're going to add some more. Okay, it's gonna thin out now that I've added more milk, but as it heats up, it'll continue to thicken. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of a splash, but then I'm gonna pause and wait till it re-thickens and see if I need to add any more milk or if this is a good consistency. Okay, it's starting to thicken just a little bit. You do want to stir consistently with this sauce because of the milk, the flour, the butter, all of those things can easily scorch.
A few moment ago.
I overdid it, and that changes the flavor quite a bit. So making sure that you're consistently stirring, but not the whole time. Otherwise, it makes it really hard for it to actually heat up, because the more you stir it, the slower the heat will actually build. We've got some good thickness here and just a few little bubbles. I'm gonna go ahead and add some salt. Fancy recipes will tell you to use white pepper in order to keep the color of the sauce consistently light. I don't care about that. So, and I like cracked black pepper better anyways. So that's what I'm adding. A good test is a spoon. Looking for a sauce that coats the back of a spoon and that you can like run your finger through and it stays consistent. That line does, shows that you've thickened it to a good consistency. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. You can kind of see the consistency of it here. Could be a little bit thicker if you wanted it to be, but honestly, that's gonna hold its shape, its texture. It's gonna be nice and creamy. At this point, if I was making mac and cheese, this is where I would add my cheese and then pour it over my noodles, and it would be delicious. Alrighty, my friends, that is your hollandaise, that is your bechamel. You now also know how to make mayonnaise, and if you made the bechamel, then you could easily make the velouté. Same process, a roux to start, but then instead of adding milk, you're gonna add chicken stock as your liquid. That's the only difference. It's super easy there. The espagnole sauce or the brown sauce, you're going to saute your mirepoix, which we learned in video 1, episode 1. So if you missed that one, go back to the beginning. But your carrots, your onions, your celery, you're going to saute that in your butter. Then add your flour for your roux. Then you're going to add your beef stock, and you'll strain out the vegetables or blend them up and then strain it at the very end. Tomato sauce is tomato sauce. We're not going to go in depth on that one here. I think you can figure that one out. And then that's it. You have covered the mother sauces. Thanks for being here today. If there are other topics, recipes, things that you would like me to cover, please drop that in the comments below. If you found value in today's video or enjoyed following along, please subscribe and join this little cooking community. I'm so glad to have you here. I will see you next week. And now I'm off to do some dishes.